Join me, put your hands together. Let's welcome up Barry Melrose.
What about my acting career? You didn't bring that up. Mystery Alaska, Slapshot 2, Spin City. I got to do a little business here, guys, before we get to the entertaining part of the show. Hopefully, if Brian's any good, it'll be entertaining anyways. I'd like to obviously thank, this is 1050's Lunch with the Legends. Bryan Trottier is a legend. That must mean I'm the lunch, so we'll go from there. We'd like to thank Brooklyn Breweries, Emblem Health, the Palm Restaurant, the Palm West. Great meal, guys. Thank you very much. I'd also like to introduce Bill Daughtry, ESPN. And Bob Gallerstein. Is Bob here? Thanks, Bob. Before we get started, I got this. Everyone, the dressing room is the greatest place in the world, and I'm sure Brian will attest. When you leave the game, that's what you miss the most. Your buddy's in the dressing room. That's the greatest thing in the world. I got this story. I'm playing in Toronto, and I'm playing with this guy called Billy DeLargo. Brian knows him. He's another Western kid like me and Brian. And after every game, no matter what happened, this would happen in the dressing room. And I'm sitting there, and Billy would walk over to me. Billy was a great player. Scored 30 goals consistently. Should have been a star in the NHL. But he'd walk over to me stark naked. Okay, so I'm sitting there. Billy's walking towards me stark naked. I know it's coming. It doesn't really matter. So Billy stops in front of me and he says, "Barry, you seen my beer?" And I know it, and I'm dying already. I know, this happens after every game. So I say, "No, Billy, I haven't seen your beer." So Billy turns around, walks away, and there's his beer stuck between the cheeks of his butt. So that's what happens in the dressing room, guys and girls, stuff like that. It is my pleasure to introduce Bryan Trottier. Brian and I grew up in Saskatchewan. He's from southern Saskatchewan. I'm from a little farther north. There's trees where I'm from. There's no trees where Brian's from. I played against Brian when we were both 18. I was playing for Kamloops. Brian was playing for Lethbridge. Because of the WHA were stealing players from the NHL, they changed the draft eligibility age then, and they allowed 18-year-olds to be drafted. So Brian actually only played 1 year junior when he was 18, and then he came to the NHL the next year with the Islanders. As far as I'm concerned, I really think Bryan Trottier is arguably the greatest two-way centerman ever to play in the NHL. And what I mean by that, I mean Brian could play one night against the Montreal Canadiens in a free-flowing, fast, skilled game where everyone was just flying up and down the ice, tons of goals. 2 nights later, he could walk into Philadelphia, go nose-to-nose with Schultz, go nose-to-nose with the Hound Dog and all those guys. So there was no style of play that Brian couldn't play, and that was the strength of the Islander team. If you wanted to fight them, they'd kick the shit out of you. If you wanted to try and score with them, they would beat you 6-5. They could play any style of hockey because of the talent level, and Brian was the leader of that group. There's no doubt about it. So without further ado, we're gonna have a question and answer here with Brian. He's got a lot of stories. He's from a little town, Val-Marie, a little wee dump town in southern Saskatchewan. My town's 900 people. I'm from Kelvington, Saskatchewan. What's Val-Marie? 200-300? And didn't your dad have a band? And they would play all the bars and stuff in southern Saskatchewan. You were the bass player? So he's not just a talented hockey player, guys. This guy can just about do everything. So let's put our hands together. Bryan Trottier, folks.
And I was the friendliest guy on the ice, Barry, honestly. I thought I was.
There were no friendly Islanders. No. None of them. I can attest to that. Brian, we're going to have a question and answer. First off, you work for the Islanders. A lot of Islander fans here. What is the state of the union with the Islanders? About the building, have you heard anything about the new building, the team, things like that? Give the people out there a little overview.
Well, I'm part of the organization, but again, we don't know all the inside of what's going on in the building, but we're all very optimistic. I know Charles would love to get a new building out on Long Island, and it's time. The building is tired, but it's got a great tradition, and it's kind of sad to see some of the old buildings go down, like the Pittsburgh Civic Arena and buildings like that, the old Chicago Stadium. But that's progress, I guess. And we're still hopeful. We're optimistic, and if they can get all the T's crossed and their I's dotted, I think some good things will happen. They've got some challenges with the local politicians there getting the environmental stuff finished up. But again, I think Charles is diligent and he's certainly committed. We all support his efforts in that regard. The state of the team, we're a young team. We certainly got a nice young core of hockey players there. And from goaltending, Garth's done a real nice job of solidifying that this year with Ralston and Biron till Ricky DiPietro gets healthy. So kudos to the coaches. I think we're actually surprising some teams. They'll come in and they'll get an early lead on us, and we'll come back on them. And I think that's again a nice shot in the arm for the players, because now they feel like they're able to compete with a lot of really good teams. We came back on Chicago the other night. We're down 2-1. Jumped ahead 5-2. They came back 5-3, but it was a big win for our kids because they really feel like, oh man, we're on the right track. We're excited because the kids that are down in Bridgeport, and I'm working on the developmental side with a lot of our prospects, I get a chance to see some of these guys go from Bridgeport to the National Hockey League, and it's exciting for them. And it's not a reflection of me, it's a reflection of their hard work and the coaches that they have in the minors. And I'm kind of like Santa Claus when I go down there. They're happy to see me. Hey, Brian's in town, show us some pointers, or give us a little insight on the game, and you try to help them as much as you possibly can. And it's an exciting time for them, and it's really a fun job for me. So all in all, I think the State of the Union for the Islanders is optimism and youth, and I think they're on the right track.
Any of you guys got any questions out there? Put your hands up. Right there. Stand up. This is very formal. Stand up. Apart from cars now instead of horse and buggy.
Yeah, exactly. More color television. We've got the size of the players, the speed of the defensemen. The style of the goaltenders. A lot of butterfly goaltenders. There are a lot bigger goaltenders in the league. The execution, the skill level of a lot of the players. We used to have like maybe 1 or 2 lines on every team that were skilled, and the third, fourth line guys were kind of bangers and forecheckers, penalty killers. And you see I think the athleticism of the player overall is terrific, and that just makes for a better game at every level, even in the American Hockey League level. The kids that are coming up and they're playing immediately, they're stepping in. They don't look like they're missing a step. And the style of the game, you're looking at the forecheck systems, whether it's the trap that's been a part of coaching strategies. You're looking at defensive zone coverage. The players are just so well coached. I mean, we had a defensive system, but Al allowed us a lot of creativity and a lot of individualisms that hey, if something breaks down, somebody cover for him. And now if you break down on the defensive system, you're held accountable. And I mean, it's pointed out not only by the coaches, by some of the analysts out there. It's really good, because it's helping to educate our hockey fans, and that's great. There's just great insight right now. I try to help the kids in a lot of different ways. I try to say, okay, here's how I would score against a butterfly goaltender, and it's no secret. It's neck and ears, because the goalies are down, and it's really hard for a goaltender to put his face in front of a shot that's coming at him 90 miles an hour. So if you're shooting neck and ears, it's hard for you to get your hands up and your blocker up, and sometimes you have to change your angle because they're coming out like a big piece of plywood, and all you have to do is just take a step to the side a little bit, and it just changes your angle a bit. You can see a little bit more of the net. And when the kids kind of catch on to that, they get a little bit excited, and that's fun for me, because they come back, like a kid like Chris Drury, for example, out in Colorado, and Alex Tonga and Milan Hayduk. They were our rookies when I was in Colorado. It was fun working with these kids. They're high-skilled players. They're offensive skill players. And Bob Hartley, the head coach, was a goaltender. And Jacques Lucier, was assistant coach, was a goaltender. So it was fun for me because I was kind of on the offensive side of the game, so to work with the players on the offensive side. And we had Joe Sakic, and we had Peter Forsberg, and they were great to work with because they could go out there and execute it like bing, like that. But the young kids, it took them a little longer. So it's fun when all of a sudden they get it. So that's kind of my role with our prospects now, is just kind of help them get a little tips, little tricks that kind of help them become just a little bit better, a little more confident.
Number one, that's what I get paid for. And number two,
And you're good.
number two, you're commissioner for a day, Bri. What you said you love the game, and I think we all agree our athletes have never been better, bigger, stronger, faster. Commissioner for a day, what do you change, if anything?
Well, there's some great rivalries out there, and I love all the rivalries, but I try to get a little more balanced schedule, only for the standpoint you have the scoring champion, you have the best goaltender, the goals against average, you have all these wonderful trophies, and it's kind of lopsided because you have like some divisions that are very defensive minded, some divisions are a little more offensive minded, so the players that are playing the more offensive divisions have a terrific advantage on the scoring race. And vice versa, the goaltenders that are on the more defensive divisions have a better chance of having a lower goals against average. So that kind of gets skewed a little bit. So that's one thing I try to look at and say, boy, if we could get a balanced schedule. And unfortunately, there's some teams that don't get into some of the cities, and you don't see some of the superstars. For example, some of the kids that are playing here in the West, whether it's Ovechkin and Malkin and Crosby and that crew, they don't get out to the West very often, and vice versa. We don't see the Kopitars that are on Los Angeles Kings coming out here to the East, so we don't get that opportunity. And if you guys are, as I get a little older, I don't like to stay up till 11, 12, 1 o'clock watching the West Coast games, so it's, you don't get a chance to see those superstars on that side. So I try to take a look at that and see if that could help some of us older generation fans see those kids in the West.
It is sad going to bed when you used to come in, isn't it? It's a sad thing. Any other questions, guys? In the back there.
Thank you. Thanks.
Is there a question in there?
Well, the really fun part, and it didn't last very long. And I still, to this day, can't thank Glenn Sather enough. It's still one of the highlights of my hockey career because I got to coach some great players. Mark Messier was there, Brian Leach, Mike Richter, and you got to see these guys, why they are great performers. And when you coach Joe Sakic in Colorado and Peter Forsberg, it was wonderful to come here and coach those players. On the other side, you get to work with a first-class organization. The fans treated me fantastic. I was a little bit worried coming in, saying, oh, how the fans, they were terrific. The building, you walk in the building, it was a great building, alive, and I said to him, that was a great experience for me, and to this day, I still can't thank Glenn Sather enough. Now, it's no slap to the Islanders. I'm happy to be back with the Islanders. It's really, wherever I go, and I played 3 years with the Penguins, I coached there for 5 more, and nobody remembers me outside of Pittsburgh as a Pittsburgh Penguin. They all remember me as a New York Islander. So that's really kind of the identity I walk around throughout North America with, is Bryan Trottier, New York Islander. So I'm sure proud to be back with the Islanders.
Right up front here.
Ross, they say that those who can't coach, obviously you can, but as an all-star, a perennial all-star player, do you expect more from a player when you're a coach?
For did the people in the back hear that? He wanted to know, like, as a player who was maybe a little more successful, did I expect more from the players, more so than some other coaches that weren't necessarily as successful? But I think for me, you recognize real early, because when I was with the Islanders, Al Arbor would call us into the office every once in a while and just kind of give us a individual pep talk. And there was times where I was, maybe had 1 or 2 points, and we're getting a lot of power play time, and I'm on a five game goalless streak, and you're thinking you're getting called in, and you're going to catch some crap, And Al would come in, he says, Stan Mikita did this one thing when I was with Chicago, and he told this and he said this, and it sure helped him. And I'd walk out there, wow, if it's going to work for Stan Mikita, it's going to work for me. And the story goes, I don't know if there's a lot of truth to this, he says the one thing that happened to Bobby Orr when he went to Chicago as a player coach is he couldn't understand why every defenseman couldn't put it over that guy's stick, between that guy's legs, to a guy coming 90 miles an hour down the wall and put it right on his stick with a perfect little flat pass so he could shoot it right on the net, and it frustrated him so much, because to him that was a high percentage play. Well, 90 miles an hour down the wall and put it right on his stick with a perfect little flat pass so he could shoot it right on the net, right on the, and he just, it frustrated him so much, because to him that was a high percentage play. Well, 90 you know, in hearing that, you recognize the fact that there's low percentage plays and high percentage plays. And for me, I said to myself, oh, I just push it by that guy's legs right there, and Bossy should be there pretty quick, you know, and he'll bang to the net. And that's just a confidence thing. And so you recognize real early that with some players, it's not necessarily their skill. They have other skills. So you got to find their strengths and then coach to that strength. And some guys, and I'd say the more successful coaches, because Barry had some great success out in LA, you find your strengths and you say, wow, this is really good. Good, now I know his strengths and I can work towards that, put him with this other guy's strengths, where some coaches don't necessarily do that. They try to pound a system into that player's head and they say, you have to play this way, you got to forecheck this way, you got to back check this way, you got to score this way. And I think that it certainly helped me hearing that from guys like Al Arbor and Bob Johnson and Scotty Bowman, who had that experience that I could draw from, and things weren't going real well. And it helped me later on when I was kind of assistant coaching and head coaching.
I can't remember that many slumps you were in, Brian, personally.
Well,
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, he did. And you know, it's one that went for us that night. And we're playing against the Philadelphia Flyers. It's game 6 at home. And there's a drop pass. No, it's actually, I believe it was the second period. It was the second period, and Clark Gillies makes a drop pass at the Philadelphia blue line, and it goes about 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet outside the blue line. Butch Goring comes in, sweeps it in, and you can literally see Leon Stickle, who was the linesman, go, you know, it's onside, it's not offside. And we're all like sitting there like, oh man, well, that wasn't the play. What happened was you could almost see Philadelphia kind of like, what do you mean it's offside? And Butch throws a cross-ice pass to Dwayne Sutter, and Dwayne knocks it into the net. Now all hell breaks loose. The Philadelphia bench is going crazy. We're cheering because it goes for us. But as we all know who play sports, and we all know who played NHL especially, there's going to be calls that go against you, and there's going to be calls that go for you, and there's going to be bounces that go against you, and bounces that go, and you got to play those things. And when they go for you, you got to jump on it. When it goes against you, you got to overcome it. And that was one that went for us. And I'm not complaining about it. And I say to myself, you know, was it the winning goal? No, it wasn't the winning goal, but it certainly changed the kind of the reflection of the game at that point, and probably a little bit of the momentum. So it's one that went for us. We were playing against Pittsburgh early in the second cup, and Randy Carlisle's going back for a puck. We dumped the puck in. Randy Carlisle's going back for the puck, and it hit the boards, and it came off the boards. It hopped over his stick just when he went to get it, and it jumped right to John Tonelli, who was coming in right behind him, and John snaps a puck past the goaltender, and it ends up being the tying goal of the game.
Yeah, but you guys were down 3-0 in that series.
Yeah, and you know, that's a bounce again. That went for us, but it was a bounce. It wasn't a referee's call. But those are the kinds of things that happen. And I mean, I have to think real hard. You know, Al would always say, hey, the roof can cave in. We got to focus on our game. We can't worry about the referees. We can't worry about the bounces. We just got to play our game. And really, that's kind of like the style we played. But yeah, it was offside, and yeah, it was one of the things that went our way. But we're not complaining.
Right there.
Thank you.
Two real quick questions. What ring are you wearing? And name a center iceman now that plays the style you think you play.
Ooh, great question. Well, this is the Colorado ring from 2001 when I was assistant coach in Colorado. And I like to wear this out to events because it actually has the most bling. Of all the rings, it has 40 diamonds. And I can understand why diamonds are a girl's best friend, and us guys get the dog. But these diamonds are very sparkly. It has 6 rubies. It's been praised at about $25,000 US. It's white gold, and it's probably the biggest ring. It's kind of the clunkiest ring. It clunks all over when you wear it a lot, but it's kind of fun to wear to events. And I take it to a lot of school visits, and the kids all put it on, and the kids will pretend like, oh, I can't get it off, I can't get it off. And I'll say, that's okay, I carry a butcher knife or something, we'll get it off. And if the girls try it on, we're engaged for the day. So we have a lot of fun with the rings. The player probably the closest that I could see right now that plays a little, maybe Taves, maybe the kid Taves out in Chicago. You know, really wonderful little two-way players face off. So you had a wonderful Olympics.
I think you're a little bit like Crosby too. You know, Crosby sticks his nose in, competes.
He's way faster than me. That was like someone said, "You're right."
There was no dive. You were usually not cold.
Know
you didn't have to take dives in those days. You were usually not cold.
We didn't know
yes,
that.
Sir.
Brian,
great. All right. Right. No, it's all right.
Obviously, over the years, the Ranger-Islander rivalry has died down a bit, but obviously it was at the height when you were playing late 70s through the 80s. Any good stories you might be able to remember from those rivalries or anything you want to share?
God, there were some great ones. We had Barry Beck. Here's a funny story. Like we end up beating the Rangers in one of the series. It was probably 81 or 82 on the way to one of the Stanley Cups. And at the end of the year, we'd celebrate a little bit. But the following fall, they kill us in exhibition. They beat us. We would play them like 3 times, and bang, bang, bang. It's like 4-1, 5-0. They're just beating us. And Barry, and I love Barry, he said, "Oh, it looks like those guys have been celebrating too much, eating hot dogs and celebrating champagne." And like a week later, he got diagnosed with this strange thing. He was eating too many hot dogs off the vendors here in New York City. So we kind of jibed him about that. There was a time when Dennis was going through a real tough divorce, and they were on Dennis because his divorce was kind of big news around New York because his wife had accused him of beating, abuse. So they started this chant in New York, and it was like, Potvin beats his wife or whatever. And
I think it went beat your wife, Podman, beat your wife. I think it went.
So anyway,
I just think that's how it went.
So anyway, they start the chant, and Dennis is just coming off one of his shifts, and we're in Madison Square Garden, and Butch is sitting on the bench, and they start this chant, beat your wife, Potvin, beat your wife, and there's Butch going, beat your wife, Potvin, beat your wife. And Dennis looks over at him and says, "What? You're my teammate." Butchie looks at him and goes, "I can't help it. It's kind of catchy,
On those teams, who, like everyone knows your line, everyone knows Potvin on defense and Billy Smith. Who of the group that maybe doesn't get enough credit? Who is a real glue guy in that dressing room that maybe should get more credit for your success?
Without a doubt, and Billy Smith and I talk about this all the time, it's Gordie Lane, and the gentleman over there brought his name up before. Now, Gordie was a defenseman who has a stutter, and he sat right next to me, and if he knew you, he wouldn't stutter that much, and if he sang, he wouldn't stutter at all. And we always had country music on. He loved country music in the locker room. Our trainers liked country music, so he would sing along, and Anders Kullur was absolutely amazed. Anders Kullur's from Sweden. He would be so amazed that Gordie could sing and not stutter. And so, as sweet and innocent as a guy could say it, he said, "Gordo," in his Swedish accent. He said, "Instead of saying, pass the puck, why don't you say, pass the puck?" But we're playing a game in Philadelphia. And Bob McCammon is the coach, and they've got Ben Wilson on their team, and we all know Ben Wilson. He had a fuse like this long, and he's tough as nails, and he's big and strong, and he fought everybody tough on our team and did very, very well. But Bob McCammon is mad at him because apparently at the game before he coughed the puck up in front of his net, and he says, "Well, if he wants to play like Bobby Orr, if he thinks he's Bobby Orr, I'm going to make him center ice tonight." Well, who is he taking the face-off against all night but me? And I know he's doing it to try to intimidate me, and okay, this is going to be so Ben's winning every face-off. I'm like, "Oh, good face-off, Ben. Nice. All right. You're good on these draws. All right. I didn't know you're that good." I'm not trying to make him mad because he's going to take my head off. And Ben, as we all know, wasn't a fast skater, but he's a pretty good stick handler. And he's weaving his way down the ice, and I'm kind of back-checking over on the left-hand side, their left winger, right next, and we're in the first period, and we're going this way, so both benches are on this side. And now he's starting on the right side, and he's weaving his way down the ice, and he's going through our guys, and our guys aren't trying to hit him either. They're kind of poke-checking him. "Oh, good move, Ben." Because nobody wants to make Ben mad. And now he starts coming across the blue line, but he's coming right at me, and you got to stop up. Their winger stopped up because they want to go offside. And he's coming right at me, so I just kind of like duck. I couldn't have given him a better hip check. And boom, and he's going over like this, and I'm like, "Oh, crap." And as his head's going over him like this, he's flipping over him, he's going, "Ooh, now you're going to get it." So I just kind of step onto the bench. I'm like, "Oh, change." Somebody else jumped on, and Ben's looking around for a blue sweater to grab, and he grabbed Gordie Lane. And they had a knockdown, street brawl. righty, lefty, punch for punch. And at the end of the period, I said, hey, Gordo, I said, I want to apologize. That was me that got Ben upset. He goes, Trotz, you take care of the scoring, and I'll take care of the rest. And I'm like, all right. And you need those big brothers on the team, but he was really good. We go into Boston one time, and it's Gordy's first game on our team. We picked him up from Washington, and we go into Boston. We're playing an afternoon game. We start in Toronto. We play an afternoon Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada Saturday, and we go to Boston, and we're playing an afternoon game the next day. And Gordy's first game, so we're killing a 5-on-3, and Al sends Gordy Lane with me and Butch Goring out there, and so we're trying to quickly explain to Gordy how we're going to kill this 5-on-3. Gordy, you take it from front of the net, and anything goes on a 5-on-3. Well, the next thing you know, they're hauling Gordy off to the penalty box, 2 minutes for high sticking or whatever, and we see Rick Middleton in the corner. He's bleeding. They're taking Barry Peterson off for stitches. So they just lost 2 of their best forwards on the power play. And so I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's my fault. I told him anything goes on a 5-on-3. I'll explain at the end of the period, I meant jump in front of the shot, clear the rebounds, whatever, help Smitty out. So I'm telling him that. He goes, Trotz, don't worry about that. They're not going to put us down 5-on-2. So Gordy got rid of their 2 best players, and
guarantee you from opposing players, no one teased Gordy about a stuttering either.
Never.
Yes.
I know Barry has dual citizenship, and I think, Bryan, you do as well. I'd love to hear from both of you about the Olympics and hockey, particularly the gold medal game.
Well, from my point of view, I thought it was spectacular. I think the 72 series, as far as I'm concerned, is still the greatest series ever played. Canada, the first time the NHL players played against Russia, but I'll tell you, this was right up there. The storylines, the pulling Brodeur, the Luongo coming in, the Canada getting beat by the Americans, the first game, and then Canada hammering the Russians, and then America hammering the Finns, and just the great storylines, and every game. And I know there were like 2 games at midnight that were spectacular games no one watched, but from my point of view, it was, I think, the best Winter Olympics ever. And I think the best hockey in the Winter Olympics ever. And I'm a North American guy. I think North American hockey is way better than European hockey. And I think the smaller ice surface in Vancouver made the games better. I think more hitting, more aggressiveness, and I think that favored the United States and Canada. And Yager was one of the guys that said, he said, this North American game, I can't get used to it. He said, there's too much hitting. Things happen too fast. So I thought it was spectacular, Bryan.
Barry, I can agree with you more. I thought the style, like you said, was just phenomenal. It really promoted North American hockey, and even the Europeans started playing that style. We saw the Europeans starting to have success playing the aggressive body hitting, forechecking, and the goaltenders. The goaltending on every team was phenomenal. The Swiss goalie Hiller was just phenomenal. I said to myself, every game was exciting to watch. You just didn't know. There was a couple of blowouts, but most of the games were just very exciting. And the thing that I liked about the last game, the U.S.-Canada game, was it might have been the only game that the U.S. were not leading from the very first start, and they didn't quit. They came right back, and they tied it up in the last seconds of the game, which added more suspense and drama to the whole thing. And again, it's a reflection, I think, of North American hockey. I thought for us at the NHL level, which I think is very North American. I think it's the smaller ice surface, like Barry said. I think those things help make the game a little more exciting. The aggressiveness, the body checks, just that style of brand of hockey just makes more shots on the net. I think you don't see, I remember going to the World Championships in Finland in 2003, and the shots on net were something like 21-18. Well, because there's so much space, nobody wants to take long shots, and the goaltenders snap those up, so you got to try to wait for those in-tight opportunities, and they weren't very often. So you have a lot of low-shooting games, and I think it's just very, very exciting. I was very happy for the Olympics and very, very proud of the U.S. and Canada teams.
Talk about a storyline if J.P. Parisi's son would have beat Canada, that would have been that would have been sacrilegious. Nina.
So coming off the Olympics, we know what Barry thinks about this, but there was huge debate on ESPN earlier in the week about playing Ryan Miller after the Olympics and trying to capture the halo effect of the Olympics.
You know, that's a coach's call, and you really sometimes what I would do, and a lot of other coaches would do, like Bob Hartley would go to Patrick Baugh, say for example, how do you feel? Do you feel strong? Do you feel focused, or do you need a bit of a rest? And usually the player is your best gauge, especially a goaltender, because it's such a demanding job. You got to focus for 60 minutes. You never get you don't get a break. You don't get to go to the bench and have a water break. You don't get to catch your breath or whatever. And on the penalty kill, you don't get a break. The players will change, but you got to stay on the ice. So it's tough. It's a long game for a goaltender. And he played every game in the Olympics, and he played outstanding. His focus was where it had to be in order for them to have the success. So I'm sure coaches went to him and said, "How do you feel?" Blah blah. Hey, I need a bit of a break, but it would have been great to see him stay right on that roll and keep going. But maybe he was just mentally just needed a little bit of a break. So
This is going to be the last one, guys. Yes, sir.
I think the NHL should suspend the regular season every 4 years for the Olympic hockey tournament.
I'm an advocate. I think it's been very positive for the NHL. I think they got a larger audience out of it. I think it promotes other star players on every team, because every team seems to have an NHL 4 or 5 of them. So I think it's great. I love it. I'm jealous. I'm envious that I couldn't do it when I played. I would have loved to have played for Canada or the U.S. when I was that age and in my prime of my career to be able to. Well, I'm a cheerleader now. I'm a friendly cheerleader. No, it's fun to be a part of the game. If you can't play, coaching is the next best thing, as Barry knows, and you're so involved in the game. And now that I've been out of it for 5 years, I don't miss it. I find I'm just a less stressful person, more calm, and get to enjoy these kinds of things and have a lot of fun.
Look at guys, again, thanks to Brooklyn Brewery for sponsoring this, Emblem Health for sponsoring it, the Palm West, it was a great lunch, ESPN 1050, it was fantastic. And above all, thank Mr. Bryan Trottier.
Pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Thank you, ESPN. Thanks, guys.